The maintenance shaft was darker than Marcus Chen had expected, but then again, most things about the alien space station were different from what humans were used to. He crawled through the narrow tunnel, his tool belt scraping against the metal walls as he made his way toward the failing power coupling that had been giving the Kethmori engineers problems for weeks. Marcus was used to being called in when the aliens couldn't fix something themselves. It wasn't because humans were smarter. Everyone in the galaxy knew that wasn't true. It was because humans were expendable. And sometimes you needed someone expendable to crawl into places that might collapse or explode without warning. He'd been doing this job for 15 years, ever since he turned 18 and signed up with the Human Auxiliary Services. It was honest work, even if it didn't pay much, and came with the constant reminder that humanity existed at the bottom of the galactic food chain. The Kethmori weren't the worst aliens to work for, but they weren't the kindest either. They were tall reptilian beings with scales that shifted color based on their emotions, and they had a habit of treating humans like talking tools. The power coupling was exactly where the work order said it would be, buried deep in the station's mechanical heart. Marcus pulled out his scanner and ran it over the damaged components. The readout made him frown. This wasn't just a simple failure. Someone had deliberately sabotaged the coupling. The damage was too precise, too carefully hidden to be accidental. He was so focused on the sabotage that he almost missed the sound of footsteps in the corridor outside the maintenance shaft. Almost. Years of working in dangerous places had given Marcus excellent hearing, and something about these footsteps didn't sound like the usual Kethmori security patrols. They were too quiet, too deliberate. Marcus turned off his scanner and listened. The footsteps had stopped, but he could hear voices now, speaking in a language he didn't recognize. It wasn't Kethmori. Their language had a distinctive hissing quality that this lacked. It wasn't any of the other common galactic languages either. Marcus had picked up bits and pieces of most of them during his years of service. Curiosity got the better of him. Marcus carefully made his way to the nearest access grate and peered through the slats into the corridor beyond. What he saw made his blood run cold. 3 figures stood in the hallway, but they weren't Kethmori. They were humanoid, but wrong in ways that made Marcus's brain struggle to process what he was seeing. Their skin had a metallic quality, like living chrome, and their eyes glowed with an inner light that hurt to look at directly. But it was their weapons that really caught his attention. Devices that hummed with barely contained energy and looked like they could punch through the station's hull without effort. The Veltar. Marcus had heard stories about them. Whispered rumors passed between human workers in the quiet hours between shifts. They were supposedly an ancient race that had vanished from the galaxy millennia ago, leaving behind only ruins and legends. But if the stories were true, they had been the galaxy's apex predators, a species so advanced and ruthless that even the Kethmori feared their memory. One of the Veltar raised a device that looked like a cross between a scanner and a weapon. The device emitted a soft chime, and the alien's glowing eyes turned directly toward Marcus's hiding spot. His heart hammered against his ribs as he realized he had been detected. The smart thing to do would be to run. Marcus knew he couldn't fight these beings. No human could. The smart thing would be to activate his emergency beacon and hope that Kethmori security could respond in time to at least record his death for the official reports. Instead, Marcus found himself thinking about the sabotaged power coupling. If these Veltar were responsible for the damage, then they weren't just visiting the station, they were preparing for something. And if they were preparing for something, that meant other people, human and alien alike, were going to die. Marcus made his decision. He quietly backed away from the grate and pulled out his communicator. But instead of activating the emergency beacon, he began recording everything he could hear. If he was going to die, he was going to make sure someone knew what had killed him. The Veltar were speaking again, their strange language flowing like liquid mercury. Marcus couldn't understand the words, but he could hear the tone. Cold, calculating, efficient. They were discussing something important, something that required precision and timing. He was so focused on recording that he almost missed the sound of the maintenance shaft's other access point being opened. Almost. Marcus spun around to see another Veltar emerging from the tunnel behind him, its glowing eyes fixed on him with the intensity of a predator that had found its prey. For a moment, neither of them moved. Marcus stared at the alien, his mind racing through options that all ended with his death. The Veltar tilted its head, studying him with what might have been curiosity. Then it spoke, and its voice was like the sound of breaking glass wrapped in silk. Human, you have seen what you should not have seen. Marcus found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. I'm just here to fix a power coupling. I don't want any trouble. The Veiltar's lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it hadn't been so cold. Trouble has already found you, small being. The question is whether you will die quickly or slowly. I vote for neither, Marcus said, surprising himself with his boldness. How about we just pretend this never happened? I'll go back to my repair work. You go back to Costa. Whatever it is you're doing, and we'll both have a nice day. The Veiltar actually laughed, a sound like crystal wind chimes in a hurricane. You amuse me, human. In the old days, your species did not exist. We ruled this galaxy when your world was still cooling from its birth fires. Do you know what we did to species that opposed us? Probably nothing good, Marcus admitted. But I'm not opposing you. I'm just trying to do my job. Your job, the Veiltar repeated, as if tasting the words. Yes, we know about humans and their jobs. You serve others because you are weak. You fix things because you cannot create. You hide in the shadows because you cannot stand in the light. Marcus felt a familiar anger starting to build in his chest. He'd heard variations of this speech from dozens of different alien species over the years. Everyone in the galaxy seemed to have an opinion about humanity's place in the cosmic order, and that place was always at the bottom. You're right, he said, keeping his voice level. Humans are weak. We can't breathe poison gas or survive in hard vacuum. We can't regenerate lost limbs or see through walls. We're just ordinary. The Veiltar nodded, apparently satisfied with this admission. Then you understand why you must die. You have witnessed our return, and that knowledge cannot be allowed to spread. Not yet. Before you kill me, Marcus said, can I ask what you're planning? Professional curiosity. I've been working on this station for 3 years, and I'm kind of attached to it. The alien's glowing eyes narrowed. You seek to delay your death with questions. Maybe a little, Marcus admitted, but I'm also genuinely curious. The sabotage on the power coupling. That's your work, isn't it? You're not just visiting, you're preparing for something big. Observant for a human, the Veiltar said. Yes, we are preparing. Soon, this station will be the first of many to fall. The lesser races have grown soft in our absence. They have forgotten the natural order. We will remind them. And what's the natural order? Marcus asked, though he was pretty sure he already knew the answer. The strong rule, the weak serve, and the unworthy die, the Veiltar said with satisfaction. It is the way it has always been, and the way it will be again. Marcus nodded as if he understood. Makes sense. Just one more question. Are you planning to take prisoners, or is this going to be a complete genocide? The Veiltar's head tilted again, and Marcus caught a flash of something that might have been surprise. An odd question from one about to die. I work with a lot of different people, Marcus explained. Humans, Kethmori, even a few Zerothians. Some of them are decent folks. I'd hate for them to suffer unnecessarily. Unnecessary suffering is inefficient, the Veiltar said after a moment. Those who surrender quickly will be granted swift deaths. That's very considerate of you, Marcus said. Then, before the alien could react, he lunged forward and drove his plasma cutter directly into the Veiltar's chest. The alien's eyes went wide with shock as the industrial tool punched through its metallic skin and began burning through its internal organs. It tried to raise its weapon, but Marcus was already moving, twisting the plasma cutter deeper and activating the emergency discharge that sent the tool's entire power cell coursing through the Veiltar's body. The alien convulsed once and dropped to the floor of the maintenance shaft, its glowing eyes flickering and going dark. Marcus stood over the body for a moment, breathing hard and trying to process what he'd just done. He'd killed a Veiltar, an apex predator from the galaxy's ancient past, and he'd killed it with a maintenance tool and 15 seconds of desperate courage. The alien had been so convinced of human weakness that it hadn't even bothered to raise its guard. Marcus quickly searched the body and found the alien's weapon, along with what looked like a communication device. He couldn't read the Veiltar script, but he could see that the device was active and receiving signals. There were more of them, and they were coordinating. He needed to get this information to someone who could use it, but first he had to deal with the other 3 Veiltar in the corridor. Marcus checked his tool belt and inventoried what he had to work with. It wasn't much. A few more power cells, some industrial adhesive, a sonic drill, and his emergency beacon. But humans had learned to be creative with limited resources. It was one of the few advantages they had, in a galaxy full of beings who were stronger, faster, and smarter than they were. Marcus began to smile as a plan formed in his mind. The Veiltar thought they knew everything about humans. They thought they understood what ordinary meant, They were about to learn that ordinary humans could be the most dangerous thing in the universe when they stopped trying to be anything else. Marcus spent 10 minutes rigging his trap, using every trick he'd learned from 15 years of jury-rigging alien technology. The sonic drill went into the wall support beam above the corridor, its housing packed with industrial adhesive, and connected to a motion sensor he'd salvaged from his toolkit. When someone walked beneath it, the drill would fall and the adhesive would explode outward, creating a cloud of rapid hardening foam that could lock down anything smaller than a cargo hauler. It wasn't sophisticated, but it didn't need to be. The Veiltar expected humans to run, to hide, to call for help from their alien protectors. They didn't expect humans to fight back with the tools of their trade. Marcus positioned himself at the far end of the corridor and activated his emergency beacon, not to call for help, but to create a signal that would draw the remaining Veiltar toward his location. Then he waited. The first one appeared within minutes, moving with the fluid grace that marked all apex predators. It followed the beacon signal directly into Marcus's trap. The sonic drill fell, the adhesive exploded, and suddenly the corridor was filled with rapidly expanding foam. The Veiltar tried to dodge, but the foam caught it mid-leap and hardened instantly. The alien found itself trapped in a cocoon of industrial-grade polymer, its weapon arm pinned against its side and its legs locked in place. Marcus approached carefully, keeping his distance. "You know," he said conversationally, "that stuff is designed to hold starship hull plates in place during emergency repairs. I'm pretty sure it can handle one angry ancient alien." The Veiltar's eyes blazed with fury, and it spoke in its native language. Probably cursing, Marcus figured. When it switched to Galactic Common, its voice was tight with rage. "You dare to use such crude methods against us? We are Veiltar. We ruled the galaxy when your species was nothing but primitive savages." "Yeah, I got that impression," Marcus said. "But here's the thing about primitive savages. We're really good at making do with what we have. And what I have right now is you trapped like a fly in amber, and your buddy's still looking for me." The alien struggled against the hardened foam, but the material held firm. "You cannot hope to escape this station. Our ships surround it. Our warriors hunt your kind even now." "Your kind?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Plural? How many humans are on this station?" The Veiltar's expression shifted slightly, and Marcus caught something that might have been uncertainty. You are not the only one." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "You've been hunting humans specifically." "Why?" "Because you are witnesses," the Veiltar said. "Your kind sees too much, remembers too much. You must be eliminated before our return can proceed." "So, this isn't random," Marcus realized. "You're targeting humans because we know something we shouldn't know." The alien's silence was answer enough. Marcus thought about the sabotage power coupling, about the coordination he'd witnessed, about the communication device still active in his pocket. The Veiltar weren't just planning to attack this station. They were planning something much larger, and they couldn't risk human maintenance workers reporting what they'd seen. "How many of my people have you killed already?" Marcus asked quietly. "Enough," the Veiltar said with satisfaction. "Your species is weak. They die easily." Marcus nodded slowly. "You keep saying that. Weak, primitive, ordinary. You know what? You're absolutely right. Humans are all of those things." He pulled out his plasma cutter and checked the power level. "But you know what we're really good at? Holding grudges." The alien's eyes widened as Marcus activated the cutting tool. "You would not dare. We are a superior species. You cannot simply murder us." "Murder?" Marcus shook his head. "No. This isn't murder. This is pest control." He was about to strike when an alarm began blaring throughout the station. The sound was unlike anything Marcus had heard before. Not the steady wail of a fire alarm or the rhythmic pulse of a decompression warning, but something that seemed to vibrate in his bones and make his teeth ache. The Veiltar began laughing, a sound like breaking glass. "Too late, human. The harvest has begun." Through the corridor's viewport, Marcus could see ships emerging from the blackness of space. They were unlike anything in the current galactic fleet. Sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to bend light around their hulls. As he watched, beams of energy lanced out from the ships toward the station's defensive platforms. The platforms simply vanished. Not destroyed, not exploded. They were there one moment and gone the next, leaving only empty space where sophisticated weapons and shields had been seconds before. "What the hell was that?" Marcus whispered. "Dissolution beams," the Veiltar said proudly. We unmake the very bonds that hold matter together. Your crude metals and ceramics cannot stand against technology that was ancient when your star was young. More alarms joined the first, and Marcus could hear the station's emergency systems coming online. Through the communication system, he heard the terrified voice of Station Commander Thisara ordering all personnel to evacuation stations. She doesn't understand, the trapped Veiltar continued. There is nowhere to run. Our ships are faster than anything the lesser races have built. Our weapons can reach across star systems. Your commander sends her people to die in the void. Marcus looked at the alien weapon he'd taken from the first Veiltar. It was smaller than the ship-mounted dissolution beams, but it hummed with the same barely contained energy. How do these work? You think to use our weapons against us? The Veiltar's laughter was even more grating now. Impossible. They are keyed to our biosignatures. Only Veiltar hands can wield Veiltar technology. Marcus examined the weapon more closely. It was covered in what looked like sensor nodes, and there were subtle indentations that would match alien fingers. But underneath all the sophisticated biometric locks, it was still just a machine, and Marcus had been fixing machines for 15 years. You know what's funny about biosignature locks? He said, pulling out his sonic drill. They're usually just software, and software can be bypassed if you know where to look. The Veiltar's confident expression began to fade as Marcus began disassembling the weapon's casing. You cannot possibly understand our technology. It operates on principles beyond your primitive science. Maybe, Marcus agreed, examining the weapon's internal components. But I understand jury rigging, and that's pretty universal. He found what he was looking for, a small control node that connected to the biometric sensors. Every lock has a bypass for maintenance purposes, even alien superweapons. It took him 5 minutes to rewire the weapon's control system, using components from his own tools to fool the biosignature scanner. When he activated it, the weapon hummed to life in his hands, its energy display showing a full charge. The Veiltar stared at him in shock. Impossible. Our technology cannot be so easily compromised. You keep using that word, Marcus said, pointing the weapon at a section of corridor wall. I don't think it means what you think it means. He pulled the trigger. The dissolution beam struck the wall and simply erased a meter-wide circle of metal and ceramic, leaving behind a perfectly smooth hole that looked out into space. Emergency force fields snapped into place to prevent decompression, but the demonstration was clear. "Huh," Marcus said, impressed despite everything. That's actually pretty neat. Through the station's communication system, he could hear the sounds of battle, explosions, screaming, the distinctive whine of energy weapons. But underneath it all, he could hear something else. Voices calling out in human languages, organizing resistance, refusing to run. Marcus smiled grimly. Maybe the Veiltar were right about humans being weak and ordinary, but they'd made one critical mistake in their calculations. They'd assumed that weak and ordinary meant helpless. Your people are fighting back, the trapped Veiltar observed. Curious. Most species flee when faced with superior force. Humans are stubborn that way, Marcus replied. He activated his communicator and began broadcasting on all human emergency frequencies. This is Marcus Chen, Maintenance Section 7. I'm reading you loud and clear, and I've got good news and bad news. A crackling voice came back. Sarah Martinez from the hydroponics bay. Marcus! Thank God. We thought you were dead. What's the situation? Bad news first, Marcus said. We're being attacked by an ancient alien race called the Veiltar. They've got ships that can erase our defenses, and they've been systematically hunting humans on the station. And the good news? This, from Jack Thompson in engineering. Marcus looked down at the Veiltar weapon in his hands, then at the trapped alien who was watching him with growing alarm. The good news is that I figured out how their toys work. And I think it's time we showed these ancient apex predators what ordinary humans can do when they get creative. The Veiltar began struggling against its bonds with renewed desperation. You cannot mean to, the consequences would be catastrophic for you? Yeah, I'm counting on that, Marcus said. He keyed his communicator again. All human personnel, this is Chen. I need you to listen carefully because I'm only going to explain this once. We're about to turn this from a slaughter into a fight. As he began outlining his plan, Marcus could see understanding dawn in the trapped Veiltar's glowing eyes. The alien had expected humans to run, to hide, to die quietly like good little prey animals. Instead, they were about to learn that evolution had played a cruel joke on the galaxy. The most dangerous predators weren't always the ones with claws and fangs. Sometimes they were the ones with tools and the creativity to use them in ways that defied all logic and expectation. The hunt was about to become very interesting indeed. The plan that Marcus outlined over the communication system was insane, dangerous, and had approximately a dozen different ways it could result in everyone dying horribly. It was also the only chance they had. "Listen up, people," Marcus said into his communicator as explosions echoed through the station corridors. "The Veiltar think they're apex predators, but they've made the classic predator mistake. They're overconfident. They expect us to run, so we're going to do exactly the opposite." Sarah Martinez's voice crackled back through the comm. "Marcus, I've got 15 civilians in hydroponics and 3 Veiltar hunting us. Whatever you're planning, make it fast. Hold tight, Sarah." "Jack, you still in engineering?" "Barely," came Thompson's reply. "These dissolution beams cut through our barricades, like they're not even there. But I've got access to the main power grid and the environmental systems. Perfect. Here's what we're going to do. The Veiltar weapons are powered by some kind of exotic energy source, but they still follow basic physics. Energy has to go somewhere when it's discharged. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the medical bay joined the conversation. "Marcus, I've been monitoring the Veiltar biosignatures. Their metabolism operates at a much higher rate than most galactic species. They're burning through energy fast." "Even better," Marcus said. "That means they can't maintain this assault indefinitely. They're counting on quick victory because prolonged fighting would exhaust them." He looked down at the trapped Veiltar, whose expression had shifted from arrogance to something approaching concern. "Isn't that right?" Marcus asked the alien. "You need to win fast or you lose." The Veiltar remained silent, but its eyes gave away the truth. "Thought so," Marcus continued. "Okay, people, here's the plan. Jack, I need you to start cycling the station's artificial gravity. Random patterns, different strengths and different sections. These guys are used to 0G and standard gravity. Let's see how they handle constantly changing conditions." "Can do," Thompson replied. "Anything else?" "Yeah. Start venting atmosphere in the outer sections, but do it gradually. Make them think there's been damage to the environmental systems. Then seal off the inner core where we're gathering everyone." Tanaka's voice was skeptical. "Marcus, that's going to make us sitting ducks in the core sections." "No," Marcus said with a grim smile. "It's going to make us bait. The Veiltar want to eliminate human witnesses, right? If they think we're trapped in the core, they'll concentrate their forces there. That's when we spring the trap." He explained the rest of the plan in quick, efficient terms. It required precise timing, a lot of luck, and the kind of desperate improvisation that humans had been forced to perfect during their centuries as junior partners in the galactic community. "This is completely insane," Sarah said when he finished. "Absolutely suicidal," agreed Jack. "I'm in," said Dr. Tanaka. One by one, the other humans on the station checked in. Maintenance workers, administrative staff, cafeteria personnel. None of them soldiers, none of them trained for combat. Just ordinary people who had decided that dying on their feet was better than dying on their knees. Marcus began implementing his part of the plan by dragging the trapped Veiltar deeper into the maintenance sections. The alien had been listening to everything, and its earlier confidence had completely evaporated. "You cannot hope to succeed," it said as Marcus hauled it through a narrow access tunnel. "We are the Veiltar. We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "Maybe," Marcus replied, checking his improvised weapon. "But you've never conquered humans before. We're new to your experience. You are insects," the alien snarled. "Barely sentient creatures playing with forces beyond your comprehension." Marcus stopped pulling and looked down at the trapped Veiltar. "You know what? You're probably right. We are insects compared to you. But you know what insects are really good at?" The alien remained silent. "Surviving," Marcus said. "Adapting. Finding ways to thrive in environments that should kill them. And sometimes, if you threaten the hive badly enough, they swarm." Through the station's communication system, he could hear Jack's voice. "Gravity manipulation online. Starting random cycling. Now." The effect was immediate. Through the walls, Marcus could hear alien voices raised in alarm as the station's gravity field began fluctuating wildly. In some sections, it dropped to near zero. In others, it spiked to twice normal Earth gravity. The patterns changed every few seconds, making it nearly impossible to maintain balance or predict movement. "Environmental systems cycling," came another voice. Lisa Chen from Atmospheric Control. Beginning controlled venting in outer sections, the Veiltar Marcus was dragging began struggling more frantically. "You are destroying your own station. Your people will die." Some of them will, Marcus acknowledged, but not all. And the ones who survive will remember what you did here. They'll remember, and they'll make sure the rest of humanity knows what's coming. The alien's eyes blazed with fury. We will hunt your kind across the galaxy. We will burn your worlds and scatter your ashes across the void. Maybe, Marcus said, but you'll have to catch us first, and humans are very good at running away to fight another day. Through his communicator, he heard Sarah's voice. Veiltar forces converging on core sections. They're taking the bait. All human personnel, pull back to the final staging areas, Marcus broadcast. Remember, wait for my signal. We only get one shot at this. Marcus reached his destination, a junction where multiple maintenance shafts converged near the station's main power distribution center. He'd spent years crawling through these tunnels, mapping every access point and service corridor. The Veiltar might have superior technology, but this was his territory. He positioned the trapped alien where it could see everything that was about to happen. You wanted to eliminate human witnesses, he said, so I thought you should witness this. The first Veiltar appeared at the far end of the main corridor, moving cautiously through the chaotic gravity field. It was followed by two others, all of them carrying the dissolution weapons that had carved through the station's defenses like they were made of paper. Marcus waited until they were in position, then activated his communicator. Now, Jack, full power to the magnetic containment system. Deep in the station's core, massive electromagnets designed to contain the fusion reaction that powered the facility suddenly redirected their output. Instead of containing plasma, they began generating a focused electromagnetic pulse that raced through the station's metal structure like lightning through a conductor. The effect on the Veiltar weapons was immediate and catastrophic. The exotic energy sources that powered the dissolution beams destabilized instantly, turning the weapons into improvised bombs. The aliens had just enough time to look surprised before their own technology exploded in their hands. Marcus flattened himself against the tunnel wall as the corridor filled with energy discharges and flying debris. When the light faded and the smoke cleared, he emerged to find three Veiltar lying motionless, their metallic skin blackened and their weapons reduced to twisted scrap. Phase 1 complete, he reported. Veiltar weapons are neutralized. How are we doing in the core sections? Same story here, came Sarah's voice, tight with adrenaline. The EMP fried their gear. We've got 4 Veiltar down and 2 more trapped in collapsed sections. Dr. Tanaka's voice joined the conversation. Medical bay is secure. I'm treating 3 humans with minor injuries and 1 Kethmori security officer who tried to help us. No serious casualties on our side. Outstanding, Marcus said. But this is just the beginning. The Veiltar ships are still out there, and they're going to be very unhappy when they figure out what happened. As if summoned by his words, the trapped Veiltar began laughing, a sound like crystal breaking in a hurricane. You think you have won? You understand nothing. Our ships carry weapons that can crack planets. Your clever tricks mean nothing against the full might of the Veiltar fleet. Marcus looked down at the alien with something approaching pity. You still don't get it, do you? This was never about winning a stand-up fight. We knew we couldn't match your technology. Then what? The Veiltar began, then stopped as understanding dawned in its glowing eyes. That's right, Marcus said with satisfaction. We've been broadcasting everything. Every word you've spoken, every detail about your plans, every tactical capability you've demonstrated. It's all been transmitted to human ships throughout the sector. The alien's voice dropped to a whisper. The quantum communication array in the station's core. You've been using it. Every human vessel in 3 systems now knows exactly what they're facing, Marcus continued. They know about your dissolution beams, your ship capabilities, your tactical doctrines. Most importantly, they know that you can be beaten. Through the station's viewports, Marcus could see the Veiltar ships beginning to move in formation around the station. They'd realized that something had gone wrong with the ground assault, and they were preparing to simply destroy the station and everyone on it. Your ships may be superior, Marcus admitted, but they're also irreplaceable, aren't they? Ancient technology, limited numbers, no manufacturing base. Every ship you lose is gone forever. The Veiltar's silence confirmed his suspicions. Humans, on the other hand, are very good at building things quickly and in large numbers. We're also very good at learning from our mistakes and adapting our tactics. Marcus smiled grimly. By the time your fleet reaches the next human colony, they'll be ready for you. You have bought your species time, nothing more, the alien said. We are patient. We can wait. Maybe, Marcus agreed. But you know what? I don't think you can. See, humans talk. A lot. We're going to tell everyone in the galaxy about you. The Kethmori, the Zorathians, the Trade Federation, everyone. And we're going to share everything we've learned about fighting you. The Veiltar's expression shifted to horror. You would unite the lesser races against us? Lesser races? Marcus shook his head. That kind of thinking is exactly why you're going to lose. You see the galaxy as strong and weak, predator and prey, but humans see it differently. We see potential allies and shared threats. Through his communicator, he heard Sarah's voice. Marcus, the Veiltar ships are powering weapons. Whatever you're planning, better make it fast. Marcus looked at the trapped alien one last time. You wanted to eliminate human witnesses. Instead, you've created the biggest witness of all, an entire galaxy that now knows you're coming and exactly how to fight you. He stood up and began walking toward the station's core, leaving the Veiltar trapped in its polymer cocoon. Behind him, he could hear the alien screaming in its native language, but he no longer cared what it had to say. The real fight was just beginning, and humanity had just taught the galaxy's ancient apex predators a lesson they would never forget. Ordinary people could accomplish extraordinary things when they refused to accept that they were helpless. The Veiltar had returned to reclaim their galaxy. Instead, they were about to discover that the galaxy had moved on without them, and its new inhabitants weren't going to give it back without a fight. High above the station, Queen Zarathal of the Kethmori Empire watched the battle unfold from the bridge of her flagship. Her scales had shifted to the deep crimson that indicated extreme agitation, and her tail lashed behind her with barely controlled fury. Report, she demanded of her tactical officer. The Veiltar vessels have destroyed 2 of our patrol ships and are moving to eliminate the research station. The officer replied, his own scales pale with fear. Our weapons appear to be ineffective against their shields. Zarathal hissed in frustration. The Kethmori Empire had ruled this sector for 800 years, and now these ancient ghosts had emerged from the void to threaten everything she had built. Worse, they were doing it in her territory, making her look weak in front of the other galactic powers. What about the station itself? She asked. Are there survivors? Unknown, Your Majesty. The humans were transmitting emergency signals, but those have gone silent. However, the officer hesitated. Speak, Zarathal commanded. We detected a quantum communication burst just before the silence. Someone on that station sent a detailed report to multiple human vessels throughout the sector. Zarathal's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. She had always underestimated the humans. Most of the galaxy did. They were useful as technicians and laborers, but hardly worth considering in matters of real importance. Yet now, in the face of an enemy that had effortlessly destroyed her patrol ships, the humans had somehow managed to not only survive but gather intelligence. Your Majesty, her communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the station. It's unusual. Displayed. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human male in maintenance coveralls standing in what appeared to be a damaged corridor. Behind him, Zarathal could see other humans working frantically on some kind of technical project. This is Marcus Chen, speaking on behalf of the human personnel aboard Research Station Gamma 7, the human said. His voice was steady despite the obvious stress of the situation. I'm transmitting this message to Queen Zarathul of the Kethmori Empire. Zarathul leaned forward in her command chair. A human maintenance worker addressing her directly? The audacity was almost amusing. Your Majesty, Marcus continued, I know you're watching this. I can see your ships holding position beyond the engagement zone. You're trying to decide whether to fight the Veiltar or retreat. I'm here to offer you a third option. The tactical officer looked at Zarathul with obvious confusion. Shall I cut the transmission, Your Majesty? No, she replied, her curiosity overriding her irritation. Let the humans speak. The Veiltar think they're apex predators, Marcus said. They think they understand the galaxy because they ruled it thousands of years ago, but they've made a critical error in judgment. They don't understand what this galaxy has become in their absence. On the screen, explosions could be seen through the corridor's viewports as Veiltar ships continued their assault on the station's outer defenses. They attacked your patrol ships because they see you as just another inferior species to be conquered, Marcus continued. They attack the station because they see humans as insignificant pests to be eliminated. They're about to learn that the galaxy has moved beyond their primitive understanding of strong and weak. Zarathal's tactical officer spoke up. Your Majesty, this is absurd. No human has the authority to negotiate on behalf of the Empire. Let him finish, Zarathal said quietly. Something about the human's calm confidence in the face of certain death intrigued her. Your Majesty, Marcus said, I'm about to demonstrate something that I think will interest you. The Veiltar weapons operate on exotic energy principles that make them incredibly powerful, but also inherently unstable. We've discovered that a properly modulated electromagnetic pulse can cause cascade failures in their power systems. Behind Marcus, the other humans finished their work and activated some kind of device. The screen flickered as electromagnetic interference washed over the transmission. The station's fusion reactor has been reconfigured as a massive EMP generator, Marcus explained as the interference cleared. We're about to demonstrate its effectiveness on the Veiltar ships. I suggest your vessels move to minimum safe distance. Zarathil watched in amazement as the human actually paused to give her time to issue orders to her fleet. The sheer audacity of it left her momentarily speechless. Tactical, she finally managed. Pull our ships back. Maximum range. Your Majesty, surely you don't believe. Do it, she snapped. On the screen, Marcus nodded as if he could see her ships moving. Thank you, Your Majesty. Initiating pulse in 3, 2, 1. The space around the research station lit up like a star going nova. The electromagnetic pulse that erupted from the station's modified reactor created a sphere of energy that expanded outward at nearly the speed of light. When it reached the Veiltar ships, the results were immediate and spectacular. The alien vessels, which had been moving with fluid grace just moments before, suddenly lost power. Their exotic shields collapsed, their weapon systems went dark, and their engines shut down. For a moment, they drifted helplessly in space, like ancient derelicts. Incredible, Zarathil whispered. But the humans weren't finished. As she watched, small craft began launching from the station's docking bays. Maintenance shuttles and cargo haulers that had been hastily armed with improvised weapons. They swarmed toward the disabled Veiltar ships, like insects attacking a much larger predator. Your Majesty, Marcus's voice came through the transmission. The Veiltar ships will restore power within approximately 6 minutes. We've managed to disable them temporarily, but we don't have the firepower to finish them. However, I believe your fleet does. Zarathil stared at the tactical display. The human was right. Her ships could easily destroy the disabled Veiltar vessels. But she was still processing the implications of what she'd just witnessed. Humans, the galaxy's most overlooked species, had just neutralized a threat that her own military couldn't touch. Target the Veiltar ships, she ordered. All batteries, maximum power. Your Majesty, her tactical officer protested. This could be a trap. The humans might be working with the Veiltar. Zarathil's scales shifted to the gold of absolute certainty. No trap, she said. Fire. The Kethmori fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons and particle beams lanced across space, striking the helpless Veiltar ships again and again. Ancient armor that had withstood the tests of millennia finally cracked and burned under the assault. Within minutes, it was over. The Veiltar fleet that had seemed invincible just moments before was reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Transmission from the station, Your Majesty, her communications officer reported. Marcus appeared on the screen again, this time with what might have been the ghost of a smile on his face. Thank you for the assistance, Your Majesty. I believe that concludes our immediate tactical situation. How? Zarathil asked. How did you know their weakness? We didn't, Marcus admitted. But humans are good at figuring things out under pressure. We're also good at improvising solutions with whatever tools we have available. You took an enormous risk, she pointed out. If your pulse hadn't worked, if my fleet hadn't been here, you would all be dead. Marcus shrugged. Maybe. But we were dead anyway if we did nothing. At least this way, we had a chance to take some of them with us. Zarathil found herself studying the human with new eyes. You coordinated a complex technical operation while under fire, developed a weapon capable of disabling superior technology, and executed a tactical plan that required perfect timing and coordination with a fleet you had no reason to trust. Most of my military commanders couldn't have managed such a feat. Your commanders probably don't have 15 years of experience fixing broken alien technology with spare parts and determination, Marcus replied. Different skill sets. Indeed. Zarathil leaned back in her command chair, her mind racing with possibilities. Tell me, human, what do you know about the Veiltar's larger plans? They called this a harvest, Marcus said, his expression growing grim. They spoke of reminding the galaxy of the natural order. I think this was just the beginning. And what do you recommend we do about it? Marcus was quiet for a moment, as if considering whether a maintenance worker had any business offering strategic advice to a galactic queen. Then he spoke with the same calm confidence he'd shown throughout the crisis. Your Majesty, the Veiltar think they understand how the galaxy works. Strong conquers weak, predator hunts prey. But they're operating on outdated information. The galaxy isn't divided between strong and weak anymore. It's divided between those who work together and those who stand alone. You're suggesting an alliance, Zarathul realized. I'm suggesting that what just happened here proves something important, Marcus replied. When different species combine their strengths and cover each other's weaknesses, they can accomplish things that none of them could manage alone. The Veiltar are powerful, but they're not invincible. They can be beaten. Zarathul nodded slowly. The human was right, though it galled her to admit it. The Kethmori Empire was strong, but it couldn't face this threat alone. And if a human maintenance worker could organize an effective resistance with nothing but improvised tools and desperate courage, what might be possible if the galaxy's major powers actually worked together? Very well, she said finally. I will contact the other sector governments. We will share the intelligence you gathered and coordinate our response. With respect, Your Majesty, Marcus said, you might want to include humans in those discussions. We've proven we can contribute more than just technical support. For a moment, Zarathul felt a flash of her old irritation. Then she looked at the debris field that had once been an invincible Veiltar fleet, destroyed by a plan conceived and executed by the galaxy's most underestimated species. Yes, she said. I believe you have. As the transmission ended, Zarathul sat in her command chair and contemplated how much the galaxy had just changed. The ancient apex predators had returned to reclaim their dominion, but they were about to discover that their prey had evolved in their absence. And leading that evolution somehow were the ordinary humans that everyone had dismissed as weak and insignificant. Zarathul had a feeling that the Veiltar were about to learn a very harsh lesson about underestimating ordinary people. The real war was just beginning. But for the first time since the crisis started, she felt something approaching optimism. The galaxy might have a chance after all. 6 months after the Battle of Research Station Gamma 7, the galaxy had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the CNS Defiance, watching a fleet unlike anything in galactic history assemble in the Kepler Nebula. Human ships flew in formation with Kethmori battlecruisers. Zorathian fighters practiced attack runs alongside Kethmori interceptors. Even the normally isolationist Velth had contributed vessels to the growing armada. At the center of it all, a massive space station served as the headquarters for the most unlikely alliance in galactic history. Quite a sight, said Queen Zarathul, approaching Marcus at the observation window. Her scales had settled into the deep blue of thoughtful contemplation. A year ago, I would have called such cooperation impossible. A year ago, none of us thought we'd be fighting gods from the galaxy's ancient past, Marcus replied. Desperate times make for strange partnerships. Through the viewport, they could see the latest addition to the fleet, a human dreadnought that had been built in record time using a combination of human engineering, Kethmori metallurgy, and Zorathian energy systems. It was ugly by conventional standards, but its weapon arrays bristled with the kind of firepower that could crack moons. Your species continues to surprise me, Zarathul observed. When the Galactic Council voted to include humans as equal partners in the Alliance, I thought it was merely political necessity. Now I believe it may have been the smartest decision in the galaxy's history. Marcus smiled grimly. We've had good teachers. The Veiltar showed us exactly what happens when you underestimate your enemy. The past 6 months had been a crash course in galactic warfare for humanity. The Veiltar had emerged from hiding in dozens of systems simultaneously, their ancient fleets striking at trade routes and military installations with devastating effectiveness. But they had also made a critical error. They had continued to treat humans as insignificant, focusing their attention on what they considered the real threats. That oversight had cost them dearly. Admiral Chen, to the bridge, please, came a voice over the ship's intercom. Marcus still wasn't entirely comfortable with his new rank, but the battle at Gamma 7 had made him something of a hero. And more importantly, it had demonstrated that humans could think tactically in ways that complemented the galaxy's established military doctrines. Marcus and Zarathul made their way to the bridge, where Admiral Sarah Martinez was studying tactical displays with a mixed crew of humans and aliens. The former hydroponics technician had proven to have a natural gift for fleet coordination, and her promotion had been as rapid as Marcus's own. What's the situation, Admiral? Marcus asked. We've got movement in the Rigel sector, Sarah replied, gesturing to a holographic star map. Veiltar fleet, approximately 50 ships, moving toward the Kepler relay.
If they take it, they can cut off supply lines to half the galaxy. Marcus studied the display.
The Veiltar had learned from their early defeats and were now targeting infrastructure rather than engaging in direct fleet battles. They'd also adapted their technology, making their ships resistant to the electromagnetic pulses that had been so effective in the early engagements.
"What's our response time?" he asked.
18 hours to get there with the full fleet, Sarah replied.
But by then, they'll have fortified the relay station. Zarathul leaned over the tactical display, her expert eye picking out details that Marcus was still learning to see.
They're using the asteroid field as cover.
Standard doctrine would be to approach from the galactic plane, but that would cost us the element of surprise. Standard doctrine is exactly what they're expecting, Marcus agreed.
He called up additional sensor data studying the Veiltar formation. Look at their deployment pattern.
They're arranged to defend against attacks from 3 axes, the most likely approach vectors for our fleet. So we attack from somewhere else, said Dr. Crate. Yuki Tanaka, who had transitioned from medicine to strategic planning with the same adaptability that seemed to characterize humans in general. Easier said than done, replied Commander Fisara, the former station commander who now served as liaison for the Kethmori forces. The asteroid field limits our options. Marcus continued studying the display, his mind working through possibilities. 15 years of crawling through impossible spaces and jury-rigging solutions to unsolvable problems had given him a different perspective on tactical challenges.
"What if we don't attack their fleet at all?" he said finally.
The bridge fell silent as everyone turned to look at him. "Explain," Zarathul said. "The Veiltar are protecting the relay station, right? They're positioned to stop us from reaching it. But what if we don't try to reach it?" Sarah caught on first. "You want to bring it to us." "The relay station is essentially a massive quantum transmitter," Marcus continued. "It's held in position by gravitational anchors, but those anchors are just machines. Sophisticated ones, but still machines." Dr. Tanaka's eyes lit up with understanding. "If we could destabilize the anchors, the station would drift out of position. Right into the path of our fleet," Sarah finished. "But how do we reach the anchors without fighting through the entire Veiltar fleet?" Marcus smiled and gestured to the asteroid field on the display. "The same way I used to repair systems in impossible locations. We go through the maintenance tunnels. It took 2 hours to plan the operation and another 6 to get the specialized teams in position. The plan required a level of precision that would have been impossible without the Alliance's combined resources. Human creativity, Kethmori engineering, Zorathian speed, and Veilth stealth technology all working in perfect coordination. Marcus led the infiltration team personally, using a modified Veilth stealth ship to penetrate the asteroid field undetected. His team consisted of volunteers from every species in the Alliance. Engineers who had learned to work together despite completely different physiologies and thinking patterns. "Target in sight," reported Lieutenant Kekstan, the Zorathian pilot, "beginning approach to relay anchor point 7. Through the ship's viewports, Marcus could see the massive gravitational anchor, a structure the size of a small moon that held the relay station in its precise position. Like all Veiltar technology, it was beautiful and terrifying, its crystalline surfaces crackling with barely contained energy. "Remember," Marcus said to his team, "we're not trying to destroy it. We just need to convince it that its position data is wrong." The plan was elegantly simple in concept and fiendishly complex in execution. Instead of trying to overpower the Veiltar's technology, they were going to trick it. Human computer specialists had developed a virus based on Veiltar programming languages salvaged from previous battles. The virus wouldn't damage the anchor systems. It would simply feed them false information about their spatial coordinates.
Approaching the maintenance access, reported Chinara, the team's Kethmori engineer.
Hull is responding to our approach protocols. That was another advantage of the Alliance. The Kethmori had spent centuries studying Veiltar ruins, giving them insights into ancient access codes and security systems. The Veiltar, in their arrogance, had never bothered to change systems that had worked for thousands of years. Marcus and his team slipped inside the gravitational anchor like ghosts, moving through corridors that hummed with power older than some civilizations. The Veiltar had built their technology to last, but they'd also built it to be maintained. Every system had access points and diagnostic interfaces. You just had to know where to look. "Control center located," Marcus whispered into his communicator. "Beginning upload." The virus insertion took exactly 47 seconds. When it was complete, Marcus felt a moment of profound satisfaction. The Veiltar had spent their lives believing that might made right, that the strong naturally dominated the weak. They were about to learn that in the modern galaxy, the clever could outmaneuver the strong. "Upload complete," he reported. Beginning withdrawal.
The team made it back to their stealth ship just as the first signs of system instability began to manifest. The gravitational anchor's energy output started fluctuating as its positioning system tried to reconcile conflicting data about where it was supposed to be.
All teams report successful upload, came Sarah's voice over the communication system. Initiating Phase 2. Across the asteroid field, 5 other teams had simultaneously infected 5 other gravitational anchors. The relay station, no longer held in a stable position, began to drift as the gravitational fields that contained it fluctuated wildly. The Veiltar fleet reacted immediately, breaking formation to pursue the drifting station. It was exactly what Marcus had hoped for. In trying to protect their prize, they had abandoned their defensive positions. Fleet emergence in 10 seconds, Sarah announced. The Alliance fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Their combined firepower focused on the scattered and confused Veiltar ships. The ancient aliens found themselves caught between their need to protect a relay station and their need to defend themselves from attack. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Human tactics combined with alien technology. Species that had been enemies for centuries fighting as coordinated units. Strategies that no single race could have conceived being executed with flawless precision. Marcus watched from his stealth ship as a human-designed battle plan unfolded with mechanical efficiency. The Veiltar ships, designed for individual combat and hit-and-run tactics, couldn't adapt to the Alliance's coordinated assault. One by one, the ancient vessels were overwhelmed and destroyed. Veiltar flagship is withdrawing, reported the fleet's tactical officer. Remaining enemy vessels are following. Let them go, Sarah ordered. We have what we came for. The relay station, now under Alliance control, would serve as a strategic choke point that the Veiltar could never again use to threaten galactic supply lines. More importantly, the victory demonstrated that the ancient aliens could be defeated not just through luck or desperation, but through superior tactics and coordination.
Another successful operation, Zarathul said as she joined Marcus in the stealth ship's observation lounge. Your species continues to redefine what's possible in warfare. It's not just humans, Marcus replied, watching as ships from a dozen different species worked together to secure the relay station.
This victory belongs to everyone. We couldn't have done it alone.
No, the Queen agreed.
But you showed us how to work together in ways we never imagined. Before humans joined the galactic community, each species fought in their own way, using their own strengths. You taught us that our individual weaknesses could become collective strengths. Through the viewport, they could see the Veiltar flagship limping away toward the galactic rim. The ancient aliens were still dangerous, still possessed of technology and knowledge that far exceeded anything the Alliance could match. But they were no longer invincible. They could be outthought, outmaneuvered, and defeated. What do you think will happen to them? Marcus asked. They'll adapt, Zarathul said with certainty. They're survivors, just like humans. But the galaxy has moved beyond their understanding of power and conquest. They can either learn to be part of the new order, or they can be left behind by it. Marcus nodded, thinking about the human maintenance workers, technicians, and farmers who had somehow found themselves at the center of a galactic war. They'd never intended to become soldiers or heroes. They'd just been ordinary people trying to do their jobs in extraordinary circumstances, but maybe that was exactly what the galaxy had needed. Not more heroes or conquerors, but ordinary people who refused to accept that ordinary meant helpless. People who could look at impossible problems and find creative solutions, who could build bridges between species that had nothing in common except the will to survive. The Veiltar had returned to reclaim their galaxy and found that their prey had evolved beyond their recognition. The age of apex predators was ending, replaced by something new, an age of cooperation, creativity, and the recognition that the most dangerous force in the universe wasn't strength or technology, but the refusal to give up. And leading that transformation, in ways both large and small, were the humans who had proven that being ordinary was just another word for unlimited potential waiting to be discovered. The real victory wasn't in the battles they'd won, but in the future they'd made possible. A galaxy where strength was measured not by the ability to dominate others, but by the willingness to lift them up.